Ready?
Oh.
Action.
Action.
Hello.
Hello. Like every one of our videos starts with hi.
Hi.
Hello. Oh.
What's up, friends? It is a crazy day.
It is a crazy day.
Yeah. There's a lot of snow out there.
There's a lot of snow. Kind of a freak snowstorm going on right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty big surprise. But
Yeah.
anyways, welcome to the channel.
Welcome.
Thank you for visiting. If it's your first time or you're new to the channel, maybe in the last week or two or something, maybe some of them are videos, we really appreciate you being here, and everybody who's been here since the beginning.
Yeah.
Eternally grateful.
If you're new, we are Chelsea and Brian,
Yes,
and we built this house we're in.
we built it.
We built it with our own bare hands.
Yeah. There's a couple other hands in there too, and we were very grateful for them.
Yes.
But
Pretty much
mainly-
us.
mainly us.
Yeah.
And so I just watched the video that just dropped,
The time lapse.
the time lapse.
2 years.
Yeah. I do not watch any of these videos. I stopped watching pretty
2022, I think.
pretty close into when we started. I'm very close to it. It has been a very wild ride the last 2 years, and challenging in ways that I didn't even think of that I'd experience. And just watching the videos it was hard, you know, because it's like I like just did something and it was like, oh man, it's difficult to do, and I don't really want to relive it that soon, like immediately.
Not at all.
So I just stopped watching all of them. Anyway, watching that one, I was like, I'm watching this one. Yeah, that's probably that hit me where I'm at, because just seeing it, you know, seeing loved ones come and help you, seeing those moments where there's a lot of moments in between that were not in there.
No. It could not be everything.
And they couldn't be, yeah, and there's not a lot of times where I'm like having a bad moment, I'm gonna grab the camera and I'm gonna share it with the world. So a lot of those came back, and we got through it. So for me, it was inspiring just to see us doing something, because it's like, hey, that was not easy. We didn't do it perfectly, but we did it, and we're still here.
We are alive.
And we're in a better place than we were. So it's crazy to think that, you know.
Yeah, so we're filming this to be a debrief, mostly for ourselves. We started this channel to record our progress so that at the end we would have this, you know, almost like diary of the build. And being able to make that time-lapse video was really cool, because when we're in it, progress feels incremental. It feels like molasses.
Very small.
And so when you watch 2 years in less than an hour, it's just like, oh gosh, yeah, wow, we really did all that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like feelings and thoughts and questions that people have that we want to, while it's fresh in our minds,
Yes.
talk about that now. So that's what we're gonna do.
Cool.
So let's start with, you kind of touched on this before, but you know, how you're feeling, and what we still have left to do, because we technically are not done.
We are not done.
Technically.
Yes. We're not. We're well. On the property, we'll never be done. There's going to be something to do, always. Some of the stuff I've been doing lately has been, how do we say, inevitable. We knew from the beginning that I was going to have to do a lot of this work. And what was my favorite thing? Oh, I didn't think it was going to take that long. I mean, goodness. So, yeah, a lot of stuff that I'm doing right now is actually rewiring a lot of the solar components. We're running wire and putting it in conduit, and I did not bring the camera around for that. I think that's boring.
Yeah, super boring.
Super boring. I just need to get it done. It's not that interesting, but I will share whenever we're done and we finish inspections and stuff, because it needs to be done for inspections. It's required. So things were working. We kind of made everything work. Solar-wise is working, but like to get things up to code and stuff, there's just a couple of things I need to move around, stuff I need to add, and all that jazz. No big deal. Everything's almost done. There's like 1 or 2 more wires I got to do, but this awesome storm.
We just keep getting hit by wind,
Yeah.
rain, snow.
Yeah.
I mean, like weeks.
Yeah, it has been on and off. So, but I've been still working out there. How I feel, I feel basically, it's really surreal how I feel about everything personally, and and there's a lot of pride. You know, I'm proud of me and my wife to do this. It's like, it's different because there's a lot of things I've done in my life, accomplishments and stuff that are kind of like what we all kind of experience, maybe graduating high school, maybe going to college, getting married, getting a couple dogs. I mean, all these moments are outstanding, and it's almost like a completion of one thing to start of a new thing, you know. But those were all like almost like that they're set. It's almost like society sets it for you. It's like, go to school.
Expected.
It's kind of go get married, maybe. Like doing something like this for ourselves, like it's really hard to describe, and it's weird because we make these videos and we share our thoughts and stuff, and we share our life, but like should I say that? I just don't care what anyone else thinks, you know?
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, why would you even share opinions and about what we've done, you know? Because it's not for anybody, it's for me and my wife. So it's very personal. Every moment, I mean, I can look around and there's many moments of putting a wall up or painting at, or all the layers in between, the insulation, and it was something that we felt we needed to do. I felt like I needed to do. Mm-hmm. I would never do it again, like this. Yeah. Yeah, it was very hard.
It's very hard.
It's very hard. Living in an RV for 2.5 years, 3 years?
2.5 years.
Yeah. I always say, oh, I'll never do this again and stuff, but like, you gotta keep that with a grain of salt. Like, it's how we did it. Living in an RV was, first of all, very, very hard, and then living in an RV here. Mm-hmm. So I have nothing against lifestyles who people who choose a lifestyle to live in an RV. I think that's awesome. It's really good for people who want to go travel or just don't want to be in one spot, or who, you know, affordability. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's what it comes down to. I mean, this freaking everything. That's why we built our own house. It's so expensive to build a house, have a builder or whatever. And living in an RV here was very difficult with the wind. It got cold and our furnace broke. It's not really built for living in full time. What else? I don't know.
We're off grid. Again, if you're new here, you know, we're on solar. We had to install ourselves. Mm-hmm. We had to have a well drilled. You can't just tap into city water. We had to have a septic system put in. So it's like all of that is maintenance for the RV to like continue running. Yeah. With the house, it's very easy. Yeah. The RV was really rough.
It's very rough. It's very rough.
There were some nights I remember we'd get into bed in the RV and it'd be like windy and you'd like hear the wind and it'd be rocking. And I think we just lay there and I was like, if I think about this too hard, I'm going to feel sorry for myself and I'm going to feel so frustrated with our situation. And it's like, you just have to be like so fixed in on what the end outcome is, which is we're going to have an amazing house. Yep. It's going to be great to live here. But the during was so like, like there's things now like being out of the laser focused. Yeah. The one track mind that I'm like, oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, and I'd never do it again.
And I would never do it again. Referring to. That's what it is, right? Yeah. I feel like we're really decompressing. I mean, it's very difficult for us personally to. This week we really haven't been able to do anything. It's been about 20, 15 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It's been really cold. It's been windy. We can't do a whole lot. And I will say, like for myself, it's so hard to sit and be okay, not being productive. Not doing something, not like just really? I like can't now because for the last 2.5 years, even probably longer, been working full time, helping you with the build, filming the build, editing the build, doing everything that you guys see on YouTube and Instagram.
Chelsea does all the editing.
I do all of that. So it's like there was a time where anytime I like would breathe, it was just like, okay, go do something else. So I don't have to do that anymore, which is really nice, but my psychology has not caught up to that. There's still the like keep hustling, keep going. So this winter is like a much needed like reset of that. Like that's my goal that I need to do.
Yes.
Is I need to like calm the F down.
Yeah, you do, because
Yeah.
if you don't,
Right.
I
It feeds.
yeah, you're going to, because I am not.
You will calm down.
I am done. I'm done
Yeah.
for the winter. I have a lot of stuff I want to do. There's things that like Chelsea's like, oh, and then we could do this. I'm like, man, my winter's adding up. My winter's adding up, and I don't think that. And the thing is we both agreed that I have to slow down. There's a lot of things that was very difficult. I mean, we were doing some. We just watched the video, and we're putting up windows, and I'm like, for a second, I'm like, it took me like 2 seconds to realize why, but I was like, why am I not the one helping raise the window up? Well, I was going through physical therapy for my shoulder during that time. I mean, I was having trouble lifting stuff above my head, and I was doing all the tools and stuff. And so there's that time that happened, and we're so grateful for our neighbors that came and helped. With that being said, in this winter, we're looking forward to just relaxing and enjoying. Yeah. So I don't find myself having that difficulty trying to slow down, because I think I really don't have a choice. I'm exhausted, so I'm looking forward to doing some yoga, getting mobility, just eating healthy. I am literally going to be a homemaker for at least the foreseeable future. I'm very excited about that.
I'm really excited for you
Yeah.
and myself.
Yeah.
Because neither one of us have been able to like dedicate ourselves to like making this a home.
Yeah.
It's just like make a dinner, eat, sleep, work,
Yeah.
whatever.
And Chelsea's been doing almost 99% of the dinners that we eat.
No Uber
Almost.
Eats out here.
No Uber Eats.
Okay, so for posterity's sake, let's talk a little bit about what daily life was like, because for you this was like your full-time job, building
Yeah.
the house. So that's kind of unique. Some people only do it on evenings and weekends.
Yeah. So originally that was our plan to do evenings and weekends. I don't know how. That was many years prior to actually starting.
Yeah.
I think we were looking at different properties too. But when we actually did do this, I was working full-time basically on this. Why did I say basically?
You were.
I don't think I was doing anything else.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It was tough because if I recall correctly, when we first started, I was leaving the military. I was in the Air Force for 11 years, and I was like, I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to wake up when I want to, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and do what I got to do that day, and and go to bed and repeat, And it didn't last too long because I just felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything. Maybe I was. I probably was accomplishing stuff, but there was never a real set, managing the project. There was no project. It's like, hey, let's just, and it just seemed so cluttered. And it was cluttered for a long time. I had to have some structure, so I was actually using apps for a while. One called Structure, actually, and literally I've had every minute planned out for my day. And eventually I eased off and was like, hey, just make sure to take breaks, remember to eat. Because I will just keep working. I'm one of those guys who will just like, hey, I gotta put this wall up. So I'm gonna go put the wall up. If I get hungry in between, well, I gotta put the wall up. So I'm gonna finish putting this wall. So sometimes I have the reminder, just like, hey, slow down. Remember to take care of yourself, stretch, do some physical therapy in between. And I think that's really what helped me get that structure, was because I was in physical therapy early on. So I was like, I got to remember to do this to take care of myself. So it's very hard to just like an entrepreneur, if you're like, hey, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do this. You got to have that inner strength voice telling you to get off your butt, because there were times I didn't want to, So it was like, hey, but there's a life-changing goal at the end, and that's my reward, and we're nearly there. But so every once in a while you would have a little taste of that when the solar started working, when we got water.
Oh,
We
yeah,
got the
those are
well for the
huge.
first time.
We didn't have to haul water anymore. Oh my
Because
gosh.
we were hauling water from town,
Yeah.
you know, and having a big truck helped us be able to haul that water, and then have, you know, every time when we had water in the house. I saw the footage for that recently, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that now. Now it's just like, yeah, we just 2 toilets in here. And,
2.
yeah, it's a freaking living a life of a
Luxury.
high life.
Or there was like a quality of life improvement, like, oh, if I get this done, you know, if the solar's working, okay, we don't have to live off a generator. Because the first 3 months of us being here on our property, we lived off of a generator.
Yeah, we were running that a lot. We had to give it a break.
Yes.
You know, it's just running a lot. It just put a lot of things in perspective on life and modern living too. The things that are us Americans, I can't speak for everybody. And when I say Americans, I mean, America's big. Everyone doesn't live the same too. We don't live the same. There's just different climates and different things that you need. We don't have an air conditioning unit in the house. Plumbing, having enough electricity. I remember when we had, you know, some people call them blackouts and brownouts, depending on where you live. When we have a storm, we have a blackout, and having to deal with that, you know, and then having our storm now, it's like the storm is not really that bad, but having the cloud coverage is
Right.
what's affecting us.
Which,
you know?
interestingly enough, we're getting actually, at this exact moment, really good amount of light.
Yeah.
But it's still snowing outside.
It's snowing. I remember in May it was snowing very, very hard on Mother's Day, and it was so overcast, and the batteries were just charging like crazy. The inverters were going crazy because the light was just powerful.
So
So
bright.
there's just different things that they're just never experienced in my life before, and
Yeah.
I think it's super cool.
You don't think about power usage when you're hooked up to the grid.
Power usage. I just plug things in, whatever. I didn't think about like having so many things and outlets or anything like that. Or now it's like I understand how it should be spread out more, because
Yeah.
it's happened.
You know, there's other people we know. We've chatted with some of our viewers.
Yes.
They are in the process or thinking of building their own house.
Chad.
Chad, we see you.
Jazz.
Jazz. This is really aggressive right now, Jasmine.
Yeah.
Hey. So for those people, or there's others probably that are thinking of building their own house. So what is advice that you would give them? What's like the best piece of advice you could give?
There's a lot of good advice.
There is a lot of good advice. There's also a lot of bad advice out there.
There's a lot of bad advice. I could give you bad advice. If you want advice, if you want specific advice, message me. First of all, believe in yourself. Don't give up. You know, there's a lot of beauty in ignorance, but also don't make sure you're not arrogant. You know, I don't think I ever got that point, but it's like you had to be a little ignorant in some of this, because if you think too much, it might prevent you from inaction. It depends on the type of person you are. I really don't know who, like, you know, you really got to question yourself. If you've never done this before, if you're a builder or whatever,
We're not talking about that.
Yeah. If you've built stuff before, or you have experience, like, that's different.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about straight up, I have never done XYZ. I mean, I just watched that video of the last 2 years. I'm like, I've never done that stuff before.
Like 80% of it.
Yeah, most of that stuff ever.
90%.
Yeah, or I've done very small parts of it, and I'm like, wow, I learned so much from those experiences that now I know what kind of wire it uses. So simple.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, you know, used, you know, 14 gauge or 12 gauge for specific stuff, and so yeah, learn it. But sometimes you just got to jump in, not be afraid of making mistakes, but at the same time, take with a grain of salt. There's some things, especially engineering wise, that's like, yeah, I know it has to be this way. So be aware of that. Otherwise, just like make sure you have the resources, not money wise, but I mean like how to learn or where to find the information. That was what really helped us. Is like, I can't imagine 40 years ago doing this without as much experience,
And some of our viewers have, which commented in, they're like, oh, I did this 20, 30, 40 years ago. And like, kudos to you guys, because I just don't know how you did it.
What else do we,
that's like really practical stuff, which is super important. And like, you can speak to that. I think like the only thing I don't have the authority to speak on that. Like, I was not the architect or the head builder or whatever. But helping you, I can say, like, if it's something, if you're going to build your own house, you're going to do it with friends, you're going to do it with family, like people you care about, you have to have like a specific level of like respectful communication and patience, because we've coming to the end of the build, there's been people who have just been like, oh wow, and you're still together? That's impressive. Like, I know people have done that and they've like broken up or gotten a divorce, or they don't talk to each other anymore. And it's like, it sounds funny, but it's true. Because there's so many different times that you could just like blow up on someone if something doesn't go your way, or you could be really mad about something, or I don't know, I could be like, why aren't you working faster? Like, I could say all kinds of stupid stuff to you.
And it felt like that in the back of my head.
But I feel like
you never said that.
Yeah.
You never rushed me.
Because I needed to have patience. Like, this is not something you do professionally. You are learning it. You have to research it and then do it. And like, but if I was ever impatient, like that would have just been a disaster for how you and I just have our relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it was all like sunshine and rainbows all the time. There were definitely times we were both just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. Like, we're just trying to survive. But like, anybody you choose to work with, unless you're going to go be that guy
that builds, your enemy.
Yeah.
They're there to help you.
Yeah, and unless you're going to be the guy that builds like log cabins by himself out in the wilderness, like, you need other people's help, and you have to. You have to make sure, like, however you work, whatever that working relationship is positive most of the time.
Yeah, or just work by yourself. A lot of times, I just worked by myself.
Yeah,
it was definitely easier with some things. With some things, it's definitely faster when it's like very repetitive, like laying the floor, putting the ceiling up, having more people. But like, some things are very technical. And when I say technical, I mean, you got to use your brain power enough to do some math, or to just figure out how you're going to do something when you're never done it before. Sometimes some of that stuff, it was easy for me to step back by myself, think about it, because a lot of times if there's other people or whatever, it would be kind of noisy. If I do see a clip of our video or something or whatever, my face is always like, it's like I'm kind of know what's going on, but it doesn't look like I know fully if I'm confident that it's going to happen safely, or
it's going to fall on my face.
Yeah, even if I'm screwing things down. I'm like, anyway, so I have that face a lot, and because it's very.
It's kind of like the whole mood of the build, honestly.
Yeah. So
just like, oh gosh, like, can we do this?
Yeah, why can't it be done?
All right, let's jump to a question from one of our viewers. And if I can find who asked this question, I'll put your question on the screen. But some of these I wrote down a while ago, so sorry about that. All right, first one. This is, a lot of people have actually either said some variation of this comment or asked this question, but what do we mean by we don't know what we're doing when we built a whole house? I feel like besides this is not a how-to video, the second most popular phrase on this channel is we're just going to make it work. And then the third most popular phrase is we don't know what we're doing, we're just doing. Because we say this a lot, and some of it's like a disclaimer, like, this is not a how-to video, we don't know what we're doing. I'll say what I mean by that, which is we are not professionals, we are legally not like allowed to really give advice, I guess. Like, we're just showing how we do things as like a record of it. And if people are interested in how other DIYers like them can do it, so be it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. When I say like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have the experience in this to be 100% confident in everything that I'm doing. And like Chelsea said, we are sharing these moments. So the way I kind of visualize it is like Brian, me, my objective really is to just build this house. I just happen to be sharing it
Yeah.
on YouTube and Instagram and stuff. With that being said, yeah, these are moments I'm going to reflect on. You know, there's going to be times I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if I'm going to get sick or I'm going to forget stuff. And this is like a family log. And yeah, just, I can say that, yeah, I might not know what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it anyways. And that's really, I might not be that confident in what I'm doing. Maybe I'm putting this drywall up and it looks like poop when you're putting it up. Then you start putting mud on it, you start sanding it, you start trying, and it's like, there's things that I would do differently because I have started learning, you know, or someone else taught me or someone else showed me. But for the most part, I really don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just doing. And it's like, now I'm just like trying to finish. So you hear us say this stuff and it doesn't seem like we're confident and this and that. I mean, it's true. Or I try to be myself. So another thing is sharing. Now this is different because not everyone's sharing everything on YouTube or Instagrams and social medias. If you share stuff on there, you know, you gotta keep that in mind. You know, people are gonna share their thoughts and opinions and stuff, but like, and that's fine. Everyone's welcome to it, and I hope you know I don't care. So, but that's it. It's like, as long as we do this, and I care if it's safety. If I miss something, like, hey man, I'm an electrician, and you wired that wrong. That's huge.
That's helpful. Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Hey, the color that you picked for whatever, or you should have done bigger windows or something. Like, how am I going to go back in time and change my windows? Like, that's not helpful. And then it's really weird. Anyway, so I had comments like that too. That was not a subscriber or anything like that. I don't care. I will make fun of that comment. That's silly. Like, get bigger windows. Like, okay, come over here and
have you bought the windows?
For the windows,
you're gonna buy
if you
us
want
bigger
to.
windows?
Yeah. All right. How is the cork holding up in the winter cold? Good question.
We are in the winter.
We are in the winter.
If you haven't watched the video, our house siding is made out of cork, and that's pretty uncommon here in the US. It's a little more common, I think, in like Canada and some European countries. But really quick, we went with it because it is very insulating, so it adds insulative value to the exterior of our home, and it is a more sustainable material that can be used. It comes from like the bark of cork trees. And we also went with it because it's pretty easy to install. We ended up hiring that out, again, for safety reasons. The team that did it had like really safe ladders and equipment that we don't have. But originally we thought we would install it, and it's pretty easy to do. So
Chelsea said that we hired the guys for safety issues. I would say that's like actually part of the reason, one of the biggest reasons why is we would be doing cork now. We just did not have it in us to keep continuing to work like that hard at that level. And the guys who install the cork, they've never done the cork before, but they know cladding, and so they can do measurements fast. I mean, they were just like they have the experience. So when I say we didn't hire tradesmen for different reasons, a lot of it was money, and it was we dug deep to hire these guys to do that, you know.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. We had family members help us too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll never forget that. And having that done though, and not doing it like literally now, man, I'm just, it was really big mentally to let that go, because and then we were like, hey, if we can just have a team do this. It was 2 guys. They knocked it down in like 3 days.
Yeah.
It was 4 days, but it would have been 3 if they didn't have a storm come in and slow them down.
It would have taken us a month.
It would have took us probably a month to do it, and I'd still be doing it into January probably, and I'm just done.
We did install it at the end of August. It was a little warmer then, so we were kind of testing the insulative properties when it was sunny. Now it's really cold outside, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. And we don't have the pellet stove on. We turned it off. It was pretty warm in here. Now, I can't say specifically the cork though, because there's so many different layers we have here. The sheathing that we used was Zip R6. So what that means is, if you know anything about insulation values, R values, what we use to measure heat resistance. So the higher the number, the more resistant it is for heat to penetrate, go through it. R6 is what we have for the sheathing, and then we've sprayed another about 12, I think, right? Yeah, we tried to do about 12, R12. So we tried to, and it's probably somewhere in between 8 to 12, whatever. If we're not uneven, whatever, it should be even. But and then we have the cork, and that's another 7. So that's about R25 if we hit our mark. And yeah, I would say it's pretty good. Our first thought was to put insulation into the wall too, so batten, so it'd be spray, batten, and that, so it'd been like R, like, I don't know, 30 something. And then we're just like, okay, we're running out of money fast, so that got cut out. We're already about 25. With that being said, I don't know, pretty good.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's hard to say, but last winter we didn't have the cork up, and we did the spray foam insulation in February.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And then we had cold patches, cold days in March and April and even into May. And I would say it stays warmer longer now with the cork. There's other things we've added, like technically drywall and some other stuff that we've put in. But I think the building retains heat a little longer. And actually something we were talking about earlier that you mentioned is that the cork absorbs the sun during the day on sunny days, even in the winter. And then like overnight, it acts as like a thermal mass and dissipates the heat like slowly overnight, helping keep it a little warmer in here. So I think there are benefits to it, but it's not like, oh, we didn't have cork and it's cold and now we put cork on and it's warm.
It's hard to say. Then what's the next question?
Yeah, next question. So someone asked if we are living in our house full time, and if we're going to build anything next.
Oh, that's a good question. So let's go through one of the original plans when we started. This house at one point was only going to be what was called, what the county calls a bunkhouse. So that one can be, a bunkhouse is different from a house, is that you take out like the stove or range or something like that.
It's not like a primary residence.
It's a second house.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of laws that go into place to kind of keep the community from getting too dense, which is, I love this place for some things, and I think that one's a weird one. Mainly because the community need, I personally believe we could use some people here, and we need something more affordable, and one affordable way is to have multiple houses. So this at one point was going to be a bunkhouse, and I think it was going to be a little smaller. And then
I think so. I think it was going to be closer to like 800
square feet. Yeah. And we made things that we could do additions. So like this window and door, there's actually technically around the door there's framing, so we can cut it out and make a double door. The window itself could be cut out for a full-size door as well.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but that could happen. When we installed the septic as well, we have 2 lines to the septic line. There's one here and then one going about towards the garden, and that's where we had like the RVs parked and everything like that. So that one was actually going to go to what we were calling the main house, which was actually going to be a little higher. And
LOL.
Yeah, everything kind of like got thrown out the window with all these plans very fast.
Yeah.
When we were trying to get things done, get the well in, when we did the solar, and like, okay, all these lines now in the ground are kind of in the way where I'd want to build. And it's like, maybe I'll move it in the future. Like, well, I don't see that's not happening. So
not gonna move the well.
Yeah, we're not gonna move it. So
this is our full-time house.
This is our full-time house. We live here full-time. We plan to expand everything, so we will probably add solar. I don't know if we'll ever do wind. I looked into it. Some people are for it here. Some people are against it. I get it.
It's very windy here.
It's very windy. There's a lot of wind, but to get the efficiency, you really got to put a lot of money to do it correctly, and we may not go that route.
Yeah.
So full-time living, it's awesome. I don't know if I'd ever...
We're not in a rush to build another house.
We're not in a rush.
No.
So we have ideas.
Yeah.
And we want to have people come visit, so that means not having... So we built a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
1.5 bath. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more. But with that being said, money. That's another thing that is money, time, my back. You know,
Sweat equity.
sweat equity. Yeah. We may plan a small dwelling there, and that will be more like the bunkhouse. So we won't have like a range or anything. Maybe a small kitchenette, possibly.
Yeah, we're
And
calling it the casita, like a
we'll call
little
it the
guest
casita.
house.
Yeah, call it the casita.
It's just here.
It's
right?
here.
It's an idea.
It's an idea, and they'll have many uses, not just for guests. It'll probably be used. I'll probably use it a lot until we continue. I want to have a shop or garage. I'd love to, but these are all dreams. But the thing is like these dreams are not just dreams that don't seem real anymore, because I believe in myself, you know, and so
This house was a dream.
this was a dream.
We had someone chime in on a later video, but they actually wanted to know how we liked the zip system for the roof. You don't have to use the zip system on the roof if you use it for the walls. We
Yeah.
decided to do it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought
Yeah.
it was good. We used Chelsea's sister Lauren, and then myself, and then they chucked it up to me a piece. And some of the things I could say about it is, I don't know, make sure you tape.
Taping was really
It's good.
important.
We did use an underlayment. We did not use the zip system. They do have their own underlayment. We did not use it. I think it was cost.
Yeah, I think it was cost.
Yeah, I think it costs almost twice as much as the Gracie or Grace?
Gracie, I think.
Gracie, yeah. And then that's a great product. In the underlayment for here, we used to help with like ice bridges or whatever, so just in case. So it depends on what you need it for, how you're gonna have application. But the zip system for us, I thought it was really good. What did I use? 3/4? I think we used the big boys. We talked with our building supply and local people, really, because there's no building code here, but we tried to meet or exceed code was what we're really trying to do. And there's some advice on what to do. So whatever your local thing is. And Zip, the Huber website is awesome. So use that. You can kind of tell you what applications you're going to use it for. The biggest reason we went with the Zip was because I knew I could tape.
Yeah.
I knew I could tape. I was not as confident as my wrapping skills, wrapping the house. We weren't even going to put an underlayment on the roof at first until I was like, let's just invest into it. I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah.
We'll put the underlayment on, and then make sure it's good, and it's been awesome so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ease of use. It was good.
IKEA question: what would you recommend using IKEA in kitchen cabinets based on your experience? So, personally, we had many different experiences using IKEA. Some of them were really, really bad. Some of them were really good. I would say overall it was awesome. Right? It's good.
Yeah.
Like it's. I love.
I'm
how
going
it
to say
looks.
it was good.
She says it's good, but I think it was awesome because the problems that we had with IKEA was more with the transition phase with someone's employment with them. So they got a promotion, and our designer got a promotion, and then not her fault, but talking to one person was awesome because we can just like go back. Well, when she disappeared, we lost that, and the customer service wasn't as good. So we got some extra supplies. We were missing some things. I did most of the putting together assembly, and it's very repetitive. I would say if you're going to do it yourself one time, you may not have the best fun doing it. Maybe be a little bit of a headache, but if you believe in yourself, you really could do it because it really wasn't that hard. You can if you get an IKEA cabinet of any or product, you all know how the instructions look. It's really simple. The cabinets, they try to make it that way, but when you don't have that experience, you might not know some of the stuff if that's going to be helpful. So watch a lot of videos on YouTube. There's some good ones. I think I posted some of them when we were doing the build?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
The pros and why we ended up going with it are the cost. The cost of an IKEA system is dramatically less expensive than custom cabinetry, which we did look into. Custom cabinetry would be really nice,
Yeah.
especially solid wood versus like MDF and stuff. On that installation, totally right. It is very easy to do. I think that there's also some components of design that were really great. Like working with our designer was really helpful. We said, oh, we had these wants and needs. They helped meet them with the design in a way it would have been really hard for us to do ourselves. I think that there are a lot of things in that between the design and the assembly that I was unhappy with, which was some of the things you mentioned, but also like going to IKEA to get the missing parts. That was really painful. I think I had upwards of 5, potentially 8 customer service calls trying to figure out how to pay for our cabinets, putting in multiple orders, having issues with finding missing parts, what parts weren't in stock that we need to order. I mean, the list is endless. So for me, as being the person that was like the one putting in those orders and trying to stay on top of everything, that I would say was subpar.
It really sucked.
Yeah.
Because I would be like, look at my list and
Yeah.
then check mark, and then I'm like, Chelsea, we're missing this.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, we're gonna finish today, and it's like, hey, I'm missing this. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
Chelsea was very frustrating that part. But like, once we had everything,
Yes.
it was fine. Other than that part,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had said though, if we ever had to design a kitchen again, there's like one step up we could have done, like through a supplier in town, which would have been the cabinets were already assembled and they were solid wood. We just would have and they would have been delivered here, but we would have had to install the already assembled cabinets.
yeah. Or we would have had them do it.
Or we would have had them do it.
Yes.
But that, I think, would actually have been probably the best option. But it was a little more expensive.
It was a little bit more expensive. The biggest reason we didn't was because our budget.
Yep.
And we just had to stick with it because
We've
we're
gone
budget
over some
everywhere. Yeah, and that was one we just couldn't flex on. Weren't flexible about it.
We would recommend it though.
I would do it again.
Yeah.
I would do it again.
So our homestead is electric only. We don't have propane, we don't have gas. This is by design because we had to get a lot of propane when we were living in the RV, and I was just like really sick of it. So I was like, how can we do this? And then,
We were gonna have propane.
Originally,
a big tank out there.
yeah. And then Brian configured it when I was like, I don't want to get propane anymore. And
She said,
now-
is there a way we could do it without propane?
And we did it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so far.
So a lot of people, knowing we live in a colder climate, were immediately like, oh my gosh, how are you going to live without an alternative, energy source? So we're going to talk about how our solar and electric system are performing, especially in the winter, and if we have any plans to add any other energy sources.
Yes. So energy, very important. You consume a lot. So we had to change a lot of the plans on what we were going to do. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
We were going to use, originally we were going to use radiant floor heating, but using water. So you use your PEX, 1/2-inch pipe, and it's hot water. And that's actually heating up everything. So it's actually running along the floor, and then the floor is going to be warm. It's going to radiate that heat, and the heat rises. So some people do that. I don't know. I've heard of some people doing it here, but I know it's not as popular as like a wood stove or a propane stove or what we went with the pellet stove. And so we were fortunate enough to run into our building supplier when we were at Ace, and he was like, hey, you should use a pellet stove. You should look into pellet stoves. So I've heard of them before, but I didn't know much about them, and it's awesome. So
We love it.
So for heat, we're using pellets.
Yes.
It does use, you do have to use, you have to buy them. And the cool thing about pellets. The cool thing about pellets is that they're they are a renewable resource, and so believe it or not, wood is actually pretty sustainable. Do a little bit of research. I think they say they're 80% efficient or something, which is really high for.
It's much higher than a wood stove.
We didn't do propane, so what else we're gonna do? Beef up our solar. So when we came back, we left during 2022 winter, right? And then came back into 2023 that summer. We doubled our battery capacity at that point. We use a lot of power. We are stingy as where it comes, but like we use a lot of power.
Everything is electric.
Everything.
Everything you can see in the kitchen behind you, the oven, the stove.
Yeah.
Are those the same thing? No, the oven, the cooktop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all electric.
It's all electric. So the battery capacity is huge. And I was telling Chelsea, I was like, when we do this, if we want to take out propane or take out anything else, we're going to need to add. We're going to need to add.
Yeah.
Be accepting of that. So the intentions are when money comes in or whatever, we're like, not money, but it's not always about money. It's just like the right timing.
Yeah.
The solar products are getting more affordable. It's not a lot, but for example, one battery used to cost like $1,600 on the cheap end. Now the same battery is pushing like 12, 11.
Yeah.
So they are going down.
You can build with a lot less, like
Oh,
you're saying.
yeah.
You could have a propane or a wood fire stove
Yeah.
and heat source and anything else, and you would need like, there are people here who have like 6 panels, and that's fine.
Totally fine.
But your goal was to mimic our lifestyle in the city, on grid, off grid, and that meant more power
To an extent.
to an extent.
My goal was to be out here, and then my wife who's like, hey, how can we not have propane? That's when my goal changed.
Yeah.
So we do not live a life like we do in the city at all. Like, I say that because, for example, my gaming system's right there, and I do not run it because
That's true.
it's running. It takes a lot of power, and there's a lot of clouds. So there's stupid, and that sounds really silly, but there's choices that you have to make and be cognizant of when you live like this type of lifestyle. I mean, the internet was off when we woke up in the morning. You know,
Right.
the office is on its own system. We want to not keep it that way for long. We want to change that around, but when we woke up, that power is off. So because just drained.
Yeah.
And that's where the internet is. So we didn't have internet, but everything else over here was working fine because we had power. So it's like there's a lot of things that you really got to be aware of. But the goal is to continue to build on the solar. We looked into wind at one point, and we do plan to do backup generator, all that jazz, all that stuff. And
Which
so,
would probably use propane.
yeah, and the backup generator would use propane, like Chelsea just said. And that's what it is. It's a backup. You have to have redundancies, and this is the type of stuff. And we would have done it already if it wasn't like, $5,000 to $10,000, $20,000, depending on what size you want and what we're trying to achieve. So we're going to try to size that correctly, but at the same time, we have our system itself is built to. I designed it to build upon, and the technology that they're coming out with, that's like consumer grade, is getting better and better. So I'm not well versed in solar, and people less versed in solar will be able to comprehend that stuff if you are willing to learn now. Because even the stuff that we started with is different. We redid all our solar. We did not record much of that, and I probably will do a follow-up video later. But we upgraded all our inverters to EG4, and they're awesome. I had problems with them before in the past, but it was my issue with like the firmware and updating and all that jazz. But it's awesome. Let's go over numbers real quick if you want to edit this or whatever. If you're familiar with solar, our inverters, we got 6,000 XPs. So from EG4, and we have 4 of them. So they're running. We have 4 of them, 24 kilowatts of power that's available, but that's got to turn all that power that's either from the solar or from the panels or to the batteries from DC. It's going to invert it to AC so we can use it, and we have access to big chunk. We don't really need that much. Maybe
not often. No.
Yeah. For example, we're sending like 200 amps, all right, and we have the cooktop and the oven. Those are the 2 biggest things at 50 amps, and it's not too often. I mean, it does happen when maybe they're running at the same time.
Yeah.
But then other than that, nothing else really is running in the house. Maybe the water heater, which is actually very small.
Yep.
I mean, it's pulling 500 or 600 watts of power.
Most everything else is like really energy efficient, which you chose on purpose.
Yeah.
Like the washer dryer,
Washer and dryer.
the water heater,
Yeah.
the dishwasher. Like none of that draws a ton of power.
No. And the reason why we went with those products, that's another reason why we can do the solar thing, is The water heater, we went with a. They all have heat pumps in it. Yeah, that is a heat pump. So the water the water heater has a heat pump. The dog's whining in the background. And so what that does, if you haven't seen the video, a water heater with a heat pump, it takes the ambient heat in the air, and then like a refrigerator, like a reverse refrigerator, it takes that heat and heats up the water and pushes the cold air out. Like a refrigerator pushes the warm air out. And so the heat from the air is what's warming up the water, which is really cool. So it's not all of it. So the water heater actually does warm up some of it. So with that being said, it's like 600, 700 watts total. We were going to use an instant hot water heater that was like 13 or 14, and then still probably wouldn't have been enough. So 13 or 1400 or 1000 watts. 600 watts, 14,000 watts. I mean, that means a lot of power coming.
Yeah, I think you'll probably do a video, like you said, at some point reviewing the solar system specifically. So if you want to know like more details of that, look out for that. This is part 1. Part 2, there were a lot of questions about finances and like when we were building this house, did we decide that we wanted to spend more money on? What did we want to save money on? And just ways that you can make those choices a little more intentionally if you're doing a renovation, if you're building a house, from scratch. So that will be the next fireside chat. Well, it was a fireside chat when the fire was going. It's not going right now.
No, it's a bark fest.
Hear our dogs barking in the background.
Let me out of this room. I don't know if you saw them, but they're annoying.
They are annoying. So I guess we'll free them. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Let us know if you have any questions.